I love the newborn baby phase. Bringing them home from the hospital and the way they smell and how soft their skin is. I miss it already. But what I don't miss is the postpartum changes that our body goes through right after we've had a baby. Some people call this the 4th trimester and some people call it the postpartum time. Now all of the pain, the emotional changes, the physical changes are totally trumped by the joy of having a baby, but it's still something that we have to deal with. So in this video, I'm gonna go over what changes you can expect in the days and weeks after delivering a baby and how to manage it. But before I get into the video, I'd like to know what brought you here. Did you just deliver a baby yourself? Are you still pregnant? Are you thinking about getting pregnant? Put that in the comment section below. And if this is your first time to Dianainthepink, my name is Diana. I'm a physician assistant and I specialize in women's health and gynecology. You're watching In the Pink, and if you're new here, In the Pink means in good health and spirit. So if you like being healthy and happy, make sure to click subscribe because you are in the right place. So I want to start off with the physical changes that your body will experience and then move on to hormonal changes, and make sure to stick around to the end because I'm going to share with you one of my saving graces during the postpartum period. You are not going to want to miss that. So over the last 9 months, your body has gone through so much. The hormonal and the physical changes were like nothing that you've ever experienced any other time in your life. I cry every time I get back. When you grew a little person inside you from scratch. Now that the baby is out, of course, there are going to be a lot of changes as your body recovers. So first off, expect to have some pain and swelling down there for the first 7 to 10 days, sometimes longer depending upon your circumstances. If you had a perineal tear, an episiotomy, or a C-section, you're going to be dealing with healing incisions, stitches, you're going to have sore muscles. Before you leave the hospital, make sure to talk to your OB about safe over-the-counter medications that you can take. Usually ibuprofen or naproxen or Tylenol is considered safe unless they tell you otherwise. Sitz baths are going to be your best friend, and make sure to pick up a perineal bottle that you can use every time you urinate. That helps kind of to minimize the stinging that happens when your urine hits the vulva and the perineum. Let's talk about afterbirth pains because in my opinion, this is not talked about enough and they seem to get worse with each baby. So when you go into labor, your uterus contracts to push the baby out. And as we all know, these contractions are painful. But after the baby comes out, the uterus continues to contract to deliver the placenta and then to close off the vessels where the placenta was attached to the uterus to stop the bleeding, and then to continue to shrink the uterus back to its pre-pregnancy size. Afterbirth pains aren't quite as intense as labor pains, but they are uncomfortable. They're usually stronger when you are nursing because the hormone involved in telling your body to make more milk also tells your uterus to contract to get back to its original size. And if you were induced, you may have been given a synthetic version of oxytocin called Pitocin, which also continues to help your uterus to contract after the baby is born. So right after you deliver the baby, the uterus weighs around 2.5 pounds and is somewhere around this size. So I went around my house trying to find a ball big enough to represent how big your uterus is. This is the biggest ball we have, and honestly, it's not quite big. Hang on. This is my daughter's LOL surprise kit. Maybe that. I mean, maybe that's a little bit too big. I don't know, maybe if you were having twins. You get the general idea. But by 6 weeks after the delivery, it shrinks down to somewhere about this size, and it's less than 1/4 pound. How about using the model that I actually have of the uterus to show you? This is pretty accurate to how big your uterus is. Normally, see that? About 2 to 3 inches long. This is normal. So the hormones will make this size shrink down to this size in 6 weeks. Really bad visual demonstration, but very amazing physiological process that happens with your uterus. I think it's an amazing organ. Fortunately, the afterbirth pains usually only last a few days, but it is good to know about it. So let's talk real quick about weight loss and your tummy. So everybody is different in this realm. Some women push the baby out and then bam, their tummy's like totally flat again. But for most women, me included, there's gonna be a lot of swelling, there's stretched out skin, and then there's a little bit of extra weight because of the delivery. Please offer yourself some grace. Be patient with your body. I mean, it just did this amazing thing over the last 9 months, and now it's time for it to heal. Maybe now you're gonna have stretch marks on your tummy and on your breasts, but you kind of forget about that when you were holding your baby, and somehow it makes it all worth it. So have good, positive thoughts towards your body. Next, I want to talk about bleeding and vaginal discharge. So women are always wondering, what is a normal amount of bleeding and discharge after a pregnancy and what's not. So let's talk about that. The bleeding and the discharge that happen after delivery is called lochia, and it can vary in color, but it often looks like dark menstrual blood with clots. And as long as the clots are smaller than like an apricot, that's pretty normal. After about 3 days, the lochia starts to get lighter and more watery. It can sometimes look more like a light brown or a pink. And then from there, it can turn to a yellow or a creamy color. Now it's normal to have bleeding anywhere up to 4 to 6 weeks after delivery. And it might be tempting to wear a tampon, but stick with pads. Don't use tampons until you've had your postpartum visit and your OB gives you the okay. I think it's important to talk about dental issues because up to 75% of women develop some form of gingivitis during pregnancy, and your gums become red and swollen and inflamed. And that, coupled with new cavities because of all of your pregnancy cravings, means you should still get your dental checkups even when you're pregnant. It's definitely time to get them checked out now. Constipation is something that you want to be prepared for, so you can try to prevent it from happening rather than waiting for it to happen and then become an issue. So there's a whole slew of things that can contribute to your constipation. Could be the iron in your prenatal vitamin. If you were given a narcotic for pain at the hospital, your hormonal changes can cause constipation, and even just the pressure of your pelvic floor during the pregnancy can cause constipation. Sometimes if you tore during the delivery, you might not want to poop because you're worried it's gonna hurt and it's gonna open up the stitches, and then you tend to hold it in, but that only makes your constipation worse. So make sure you are drinking plenty of water, walk frequently, make sure you're getting lots of fiber in your diet, and if that isn't working, ask your OB about an over-the-counter stool softener like Colace, or you could take like Metamucil. Almost hand in hand with constipation comes hemorrhoids. And they can happen because of the pressure of the baby when you were pregnant, or they can happen when you were pushing during the delivery, or if you're straining to have a bowel movement because you're constipated, that can cause hemorrhoids as well. So don't strain and don't push too hard when it is time to poop. Keep your stool soft by eating lots of fiber. And then there are over-the-counter ointments and pads that you can try. And then Sitz Baths are soothing as well. During these first few weeks after you deliver the baby, you're gonna be tired. Really tired, mostly because you're going to be sleep deprived because you were going to be up with the baby so much, but you might also be a little anemic, which means low iron because of the blood loss from the delivery. So feel okay about asking help from your loved ones, and then whenever you can, take a nap. If your baby's napping, you nap. Now I know that this is a little bit easier if this is your first baby, and it's a little bit more tricky if you have other little ones to take care of, but do the best that you can.
You, get on the couch, go to sleep.
Well, I'm not tired.
The dishes can wait, the laundry can wait. Make sure that you catch those little naps whenever you can. Hair loss, oh my gosh. The hair loss. I want to pull my hair out just thinking about it. My hair was seriously everywhere all the time. It looked like there was a small cat around my shower after every shower. If you feel like your hair is falling out by the handful, don't worry, that is normal. It's called excessive hair shedding, and it's simply because of the falling levels of estrogen. When you are pregnant, the increased estrogen keeps your hair growth cycle longer, and then they also syncs up, so all your hair is growing at the same time. So your hair becomes thicker and fuller just when you're pregnant. Some women feel like they have the best hair of their lives when they're pregnant. But after the baby is born, the estrogen level drops, and then the hair cycle returns to normal. And for a while, you lose that fuller hair you gained when you were pregnant. So a non-pregnant person generally loses about 100 hairs a day. During the first weeks after delivery, you might lose 3 times that amount, but don't worry, you are not gonna go bald. Your hair is gonna go back to whatever it was before you were pregnant. Breast pain. Now, whether you are breastfeeding or not, there is gonna be some pain. So your breasts are gonna become engorged and your nipples are gonna become sore. Now, I have done a video on breastfeeding problems, so I'm gonna link to that right here. Check that out if you are struggling with breast pain, because I go over all of that in detail. Now I wanna talk about the hormonal changes. There are few other times in your life where you experience this massive fluctuation of hormones that you do when you were pregnant. When you hit puberty, and we all know what kind of a hormonal mess we were when that happens, and then when we go through menopause. And if you've just had a baby, you haven't experienced that yet, neither have I, but just ask your mom or grandma and they can tell you how that went. And then there is pregnancy and delivery. And these hormone changes can wreak havoc on your emotions. Up to 80% of women experience sadness for a few weeks after delivering a baby, and we call this the baby blues, which can start as soon as 2 to 3 days after childbirth. You might feel anxious, you can feel some depression, you might cry for no reason, and then you might question yourself and your abilities to take care of your own baby. Sometimes you can even feel anger towards your loved ones, your husband or your partner, your other children, and even your baby. The baby blues can feel discouraging. You feel like you have every reason to be happy, but you don't feel that way, and it can make you feel alone, but you're not. Like I said, 80% of new moms experience this in some way or another. It is so common, and it is absolutely nothing that you should feel guilty about. Now, baby blues go away after a week or two. When symptoms are more severe or when they last longer than 2 weeks, we consider this postpartum depression. And again, this is very common as well, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. But if you are experiencing postpartum depression, I would encourage you to talk to your partner or a trusted family member or friend, and make sure you discuss it with your OB as well so they can determine if you need treatment. Speaking of your OB, I want to talk about your postpartum appointment. Only about 40% of new moms actually go to their postpartum appointment, and I want to encourage you to go to your appointment. Now, as promised at the beginning of the video, I told you that I was going to tell you something that was a total saving grace for me, and that was something called Padcycles. So at the hospital, they give you ice packs to put on your perineum, which is really soothing. But when you get home, these Padcycles that you can make really help as you heal down there. But these Padcycles, which I'm going to give you the recipe to, are so soothing to help with swelling and pain. So grab yourself a menstrual pad and then mix together in a bowl about 2 tablespoons of water, 2 tablespoons of witch hazel, a couple of drops of lavender, and then mix that together. Use that to moisten the pad. Not so much that it's like dripping, but enough that the whole pad is wet. Then get aloe vera gel and spread about a tablespoon of the aloe vera gel all around on the pad. Fold the pad up and then put it in the freezer for a couple of hours. The menstrual pad is really cool because the stuff in there freezes, but it doesn't freeze completely stiff and solid, but it feels cool and soothing. Whenever you need it, take it out of the freezer and then just stick it in your underwear and wear that for about 10 to 20 minutes a couple of times a day. It's gonna help with the healing, and it's definitely gonna help with the pain and the swelling. You're gonna love it. I should make a video demonstration about that. Okay, I've just decided. Coming up soon, I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna demonstrate how to make it, and I'll also talk about other ways to help with healing after you've had a baby, whether it's your C-section incision or if you had a perineal laceration. I'll talk about how to help with healing with that too. So make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss that video. That'll be fun. Now, just as a reminder, this video is intended to be educational and informative. It's not intended to diagnose or treat you. It's not meant to replace the advice of your own OB. If you have any symptoms that you're concerned about, make sure to get it checked out by your own OB or medical provider. And hey, if you are still pregnant and you are new to my channel, I've made a whole series all about pregnancy week by week. So make sure to hit subscribe, and then I'm gonna link to that week by week playlist right here. Click on that, and I will see you over there.